Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode is designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. I'm officially on day number 5 of my first ever 5-day fast. And I got to tell you, I feel pretty good. This was something I've been curious about doing for quite some time, but I was scared about the pain. And I'm going to tell you 3 things, three unexpected surprises I've gotten from going through this process. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But first, you better believe that tomorrow morning when I wake up, the very first thing that's going to happen is I'm making me a bulletproof coffee with all the trimmings. I'm talking grass-fed ghee, brain octane, put some whey protein, some collagen protein, throw it in the Vitamix, blend that thing up. That's exactly what's going to happen first thing tomorrow, and it's going to be beautiful. So 3 of these unexpected surprises from doing this fast. Number 1 is it was a lot gentler than I expected it to be. I did what was called a 5-day fast mimicking protocol, which basically allows you to have 650 to 850 calories per day to stave off the hunger, some of the pain, the headache. I was even allowed to have 8 ounces of coffee each day on this protocol, which finds that if you kind of stay under 8 ounces of coffee, you eat the food in this Prolon package that I bought online. And I found out about it by watching Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop Netflix show. All the food is prepackaged, taken care of for you in there. It was $250, not cheap, but also like paid for the experience of not having to think about it. Each and every day, I basically had enough to eat to sustain. I created a schedule that wasn't too taxing on myself. And quite frankly, I had some really good energy on days 3, 4, and 5. Days 1 and 2 were not that bad either. They were just a little bit more sluggish than 3, 4, and 5, where I felt really clear, really focused. The second big thing is that I'm finding that as I go deeper into ketosis, which is a state of being when your body switches from burning glucose and sugar from carbohydrates to burning fat stores in your body. When I've moved to ketosis, I'm in a deep state of ketosis. I'm also finding that I'm not needing to sleep as much. In fact, I can't even sleep as much. I'm usually like a 7 to 8 hours a night kind of guy. These last 2 nights, I've woken up with 5 hours, 45 minutes of sleep, 6 hours of sleep. I'm waking up at like 4:30, 5 in the morning, and I'm raring to go. Like there's no grog, there's no sleep, there's no brain fog. That's been surprising. And the third thing is my heart rate variability has really gone through the roof. If you don't know about heart rate variability, it's a metric that I use on my Oura Ring. You know, Oura Ring is a trackable device that measures my sleep, measures my steps in a day. Heart rate variability is a great indicator of your overall well-being, how stressed out you are, your ability to recover. And I've actually set new records these last 4 days with my heart rate variability, which means that my body is repairing itself, that I'm at ease, and that my stress is lower than it's ever been. So those 3 things were really pleasant surprises. At night also, this is probably a 4th one, I'm finding my sinuses are far more unclogged. I just have perpetually clogged sinuses. Every night that I've gone to bed, I've been able to breathe through my nose, which is massive. It probably is what's contributing to part of my high quality sleep. And the last thing, maybe it's a 5th surprise, I didn't poop at all yesterday. I'm a regular guy. I poop every single day. There's maybe like 1 or 2 days a year where I don't poop, and it's usually because I've eaten something crappy and it jams me up. So it's rare when that happens. But yesterday it felt like there was just like nothing in my body. And that was strange, just like not having to poop, but also not having poop in my body. In case you're curious, I did poop today. So we're all back to normal now. All right, what am I talking about today? Okay, so we are talking about why you may feel lazy and unmotivated after achieving success. Why you may feel lazy and unmotivated after you achieve success. This is a common theme of high-performing men. This was something that was actually catalyzed by my best friend, my brother, Mike DeCourcy, who sent me a message yesterday. He's also in the Great Man Mastermind, about something that he was struggling with, and I'll share that with you in a few minutes. I want to help you see 3 potential reasons why you may feel that way, lazy and unmotivated, right after you've achieved some level of success. And these are 3 areas that I've seen I would say as themes in many men's lives when they feel that way. The first and most important thing to understand, though, this is not one of the three reasons, but the first and most important thing to understand is that when you feel lazy and unmotivated, it's a normal feeling. It's an emotion. It's a feeling that as humans, we will have from time to time, just like some of these other lesser desirable emotions like fear, anger, jealousy, and resentment. We are humans. We're going to feel those feelings over the course of our lifetime. And the extent to which we can accept them and seek for deeper wisdom, inspect those emotions and feelings to find out what they're telling you versus just wishing for them to go away, then ironically, you'll be able to speed through them much quicker, develop a healthier relationship with them. You'll actually embrace them because they do come with an extraordinary amount of information about what comes next for you. The other really important thing to understand about when you feel lazy and unmotivated is that there's a difference between feeling lazy and unmotivated and then being identity-wise lazy and unmotivated. There's a huge difference. And I want you to pause on this for a second because I need you to get this. Many men are afraid of being at their core lazy and unmotivated, feeling like that's a characteristic, a trait that they embody, that's who they are at their identity. And so a lot of men, myself included, run around keeping myself busy, doing things all of the time, chronically in a perpetual state of busyness, of overwhelm, of grinding to avoid that feeling of, or that fear of, at my core, I am lazy and I'm unmotivated. So I'm always going to be in action. And that can create an entire lifetime of grinding, of overworking, of burning yourself out, of never feeling at peace, of never feeling at ease. So the first and most important thing to understand is when you feel lazy and unmotivated, it doesn't mean you are lazy and unmotivated. It means you are stepping into a temporary feeling that once you seek to understand it, you can shift that feeling. All right, that was really important. I really hope you get that point because if you take nothing else away from this conversation today, that could be a game changer for you. Could probably answer some questions in your life as to why you're so busy all the time, if that's one of your life conditions. So the first reason why you may feel lazy and unmotivated after achieving some level of success is if you're off purpose in your life, if you're disconnected from your purpose. To best illustrate this, I'll tell you a story from my life, and you've heard me talk about this a few times on the show. 2009, when I was working for Prudential Financial, was the by far best year I ever had in my professional career. I was a salesperson at the time. I tripled my sales goal that year. And actually, even before the year started, at the end of 2018, I'd had so many commitments that were transitioning in the sales year of 2019 that I'd already doubled my sales goal before I even walked into the calendar year of 2009. Right when the whole world was going through like a massive recession. Now, that was the first time I ever made it, right? Like I'd had a couple sales years before that were lucrative, that I did well, but I never blew out my sales goal like this. I became the number one salesperson in the company for that year. Pretty young guy. Like there was a lot of success that I found early on that I thought was going to take me a few more years to capitalize on. But when I climbed to the top of this mountain, that for the past, I would say 5 or 6 years, I'd been working towards. Like that was my goal. When I got to the top of that mountain, I experienced this fleeting moment of pride and joy. I definitely had some financial security that lasted, to this day, quite frankly, that took care of some concerns and needs that no longer were at the forefront of my mind. But then when I settled in, after, the celebration, I realized, that's it? That's as good as it feels? For some reason, I'd assumed that I would have felt some deeper level of joy and satisfaction. But what I realized was I was really chasing something that I thought was going to make me feel like a man on the inside, make me feel lit up on the inside. And that was my best attempt, right? That was all that with the information I had available to me. That was the goal that I set. And I went out and I was fortunate enough to achieve it so that I learned that I was actually off purpose. That's not what lights me up in my life. Being number one, being a salesperson, making the most amount of money. That's not the stuff that lights me up in my life. And when I found that out, when I found out I was off purpose, It scared me because I didn't know the other directions to take. But it also started an inquiry into, well, then what else is out there? And that was the very birth of what you're witnessing today. Like, that was the year that I found personal development. So when I achieved success, and then I felt lazy and unmotivated for most of 2009, because when I realized I achieved the success and it wasn't what I thought it would be, then I really didn't feel that energy, that motivation to go back to the well, make cold calls, do all the grindy things that you have to do as a salesperson to make the job, to get the job done. I felt a lack of motivation and laziness around that entire year. I pretty much masked my performance because my numbers were so gaudy, and I was able to get away with that. But I was lazy and unmotivated. I felt that way because I was off purpose. Now, I have far fewer days like that. The second reason why you may feel lazy and unmotivated after achieving success is because you overdid it. You pushed yourself too far. And I want to share a story with you from Mike DeCourcy, the guy who's my best friend, my brother. Like, I consider him my brother. Like, he's my longest term relationship on this planet. And he left me a message yesterday, which he said, please go and share this if you think it's going to be helpful for the rest of your audience. He said, hey, dude, I'm struggling right now. So to give you some context for DeCourcy, for most of his life, he struggled with his weight, right? Like, he'll get to a weight that doesn't feel good for him. It's unhealthy. He'll set a big goal to do not really a crash diet, but it'll be kind of like lose 40 or 50 pounds, do it pretty relentlessly religiously. And he will achieve that goal. And once he gets there, his motivation becomes empty, right? He's like, I'm like that dog that caught the bone. And for a period of time, he'll sustain the weight, but then he'll end up falling back and ballooning back up to a different weight until he goes and does it again. And this time he decided to do it differently, right? Like, this time he's looking at not just hitting a weight, but shifting his identity to being a man who cares about his well-being long-term, to make sure that every food that enters his body is done with intentionality so that he can be happy and healthy for the long term for his wife and for his 2 kids, because he's the rock of that family. And what happened was, he's lost over 40 pounds since February, and right now it's July 2nd. And he hit a plateau. And over the past week, he really grinded it hard to break past that plateau. He ended up working out a ton. He ended up doing a bunch of steps, walking. I don't know what he did with his diet, but bottom line was, like, he was able to break the plateau. I think he said he lost another 5 pounds. But yesterday when he left his message for me, he said, I'm feeling completely lack of motivation and I feel lazy today. And I'm really struggling because I feel guilty about that. And I'm wondering if I pushed myself too hard. And knowing him, knowing my best friend, he absolutely did push himself too hard. And, we had this conversation around, listen, I know in the past when you've hit a plateau and you've been hell-bent on hitting that weight number, that, like, to get to that lower number, the only thing on your mind was breaking through that obstacle, that plateau. And so you would push through it as fast as you could, as hard as you could. But you're playing a different game now, dude, right? You are playing a much longer game. This is a lifetime game. If you expand out the lens, there's no reason to grind it that hard in that short period of time. And when you do overdo it, because in certain areas of our life, sometimes even with our best of intentions, we do push too hard. We do push too far. That when you end up on a day like he did yesterday, feeling lazy and unmotivated, it's not an indictment on you. It's not your identity either, right? We just talked about that before. It doesn't mean that you are inherently lazy or unmotivated at your core. It just means, if you look at it closely, that maybe you overdid it and pushed it too far. So what I shared with him, I said, listen, man, like, I get these days on Sunday, this past Sunday, I didn't do a damn thing. I don't know what your impression is of me. Maybe you think I grind it out or I go 100% every single day all the time. I used to, and I felt kind of crappy many times, but I tried to prop myself up with caffeine or ignoring it, porn. You guys all know all my vices that I talk about on the show. This past Sunday, I was tired. I didn't do a damn thing. I watched 4 episodes of Lost, and it felt glorious. And I've learned how to drop the guilt around it because I realize when I end up in that state, it's my body, physical body, emotional body, spiritual body, telling me, mental body, that I need a break. And when those days happen, there may be some frustration because I was supposed to get something done, or there's something on the to-do list that's always there's always something on the to-do list that I could have gotten done. But I've gotten so much better at dropping the guilt because I know when I embrace it and I allow that day to happen, for me to feel lazy and unmotivated for a day, I can bask in it because I know what I'm actually doing is filling up my tank. The third reason why you may feel lazy and unmotivated after achieving a level of success is because you're on the precipice of leveling up. This is also a big one. I want to read you a passage from Deida's The Way of the Superior Man, and it's chapter 12 for those of you who have the book. And this is the italicized portion at the very beginning of the chapter. He said, "A man must be prepared to give 100% to his purpose, fulfill his karma or dissolve it, and then let go of that specific form of living. He must be capable of not knowing what to do with his life, entering a period of unknowingness and waiting for a vision or a new form of purpose to emerge. These cycles of strong specific action followed by periods of not knowing what the hell is going on are natural for a man who is shedding layers of karma in his relaxation into truth." Now, parts of that may be esoteric for some of you, but really the grounded principle and truth that Deida is talking about here is that when you give 100% to something, the thing that lit you up the most in the world for a period of time, maybe your entire lifetime, at some point, once that purpose is fulfilled, it'll be disinteresting to you after that. And you won't know what it's going to take its place because it's not like there's some sort of waiting line at the door or at the turnstile saying, yep, here's the next purpose right on cue. Sometimes that may happen. Who the hell knows? But most of us have to go through that period of disenchantment, like saying goodbye. It's almost like a death of something, closing one door so that another one can open. This reminds me of a dinner that I had years ago with a woman who was a jewelry designer for princes and princesses in like these countries. I don't know which countries, European countries. Let's just pick European countries. And she would get commissioned to make these like $25,000 to $50,000 just exhibits, jewelry that people would probably wear once and they'd go in a museum or something like that. And I was sitting at dinner just fascinated listening to her story. And she said, when I am creating, it's like the only thing in the world. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. Every gemstone, every crystal, every diamond, it's the most amazing, intoxicating thing in the world. And then when I finish it, I'm over it. I wondered why I was so interested in it to begin with. And I remember that fascinated me because I was like, I know that feeling. And we make it wrong to feel that way. But I look at that as life's natural cycle to keep us engaged, to keep us creative. Because imagine if you were just fascinated by the one thing that you built or the one thing that you did and you were enamored with it for the rest of your life. You wouldn't create anything ever again. So in essence, it's a gift to feel this way of lazy and unmotivated after you've fulfilled your purpose in this particular arena. When I did 15 years in corporate, right? Working for Prudential Financial. I was lit up for most of that time. But there was a period of time, 13 years in, where I was like, my purpose here is done. And there was some uncertainty about what the next chapter was. But when I figured that out, when I figured out I wanted to be doing exactly what it is I'm doing today, then I started building that path. It took me a couple years before I left. But like Deida says, you have to be willing to go into that period of unknowingness. And I know, fellas, as men who are high achievers, sitting in that unknowingness, waiting for the vision to appear. That's what Deida says, waiting for the vision to appear, instead of springing all the way into action just to fill that void because you're afraid of being in stillness for a period of time, can get you going down paths that are lesser, that you're not connected to, just because you wanted to get into action. So this was something that I want to say Deco Mike DeCourcy, Deco, thank you, because you really made me think deeply about some of the reasons why we feel lazy and unmotivated after achieving a level of success, and helping me to put some real deep thought into this. This has actually been quite insightful for me as well. So to summarize, the 3 reasons why you may feel lazy and unmotivated after achieving success is: number 1, you're off purpose. Number 2, you overdid it. Or number 3, you're at the precipice of leveling up. And remember, anytime you feel lazy or unmotivated, it is not an indictment on your identity. It's not who you are at your core. It's simply a temporary state of being that, if you are to inspect it, there's deep wisdom and knowledge for the next step in your life. Hey, I just noticed that we've got 98 ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. We are just closing in on 100. And if you liked this episode, if you got value out of it, will you please considering leaving a rating and a review pointing to this episode on Apple Podcasts, so that a future listener can come in, benefit from listening the same way that you just did, and helping us get over that 100 rating and review mark. For some reason, that feels important. And if you're the one who gets us to 99 or 100 or the ones after that, email me, let me know, and I'll shout you out on one of the future podcasts. Thanks.